Now you can see that the VApp is now deployed. You can see the completed status here. You can click on the COPS VApp. Click the summary tab. You should see that the VApp is ready to be powered on. If you click on the virtual machines tab, you can see that there are 2 VMs that are part of this particular VApp. Now, as a best practice recommendation, make sure that you always start or stop your VApp. Do not start or stop individual virtual machines. I'm going to go ahead and power on the VApp by clicking on this power on tab here. You'll notice that the analytics VM starts first and the UI VM follows. It may take a few minutes to power on the virtual machines. Okay, now that the VApp is powered on, you can see the status. Both the VMs have been powered on, the completed status at the bottom. And in the VApp status, it should say available. So now we are ready to do our third step, which is the configuration of the VApp. So you can just click on this available, and it will take you through the vCenter Operations Manager UI. The first time around, it will automatically recognize that you have not configured the vCenter Operations Manager. So it will automatically take you to the administration UI. The default password is admin. You can log in, and it's going to start the initial setup wizard. The initial setup wizard is going to go through 4 different steps. First and the foremost, it's going to force you to change the password for the admin account as well as the root account for the virtual appliances. So I'm going to set the passwords first. Click Next. Now that the passwords have been set, you need to specify a vCenter server to collect the data from. The display name is just a descriptive name that you can use. So in this case, I'm going to just point the name that I have for the local environment. The vCenter server address is the IP address or the fully qualified domain name for the vCenter server where you want to collect the data from. You need to provide a registration user, the one with administrative privileges, so that it can collect the information from the vCenter server. The collection user and password is optional. In case you want to set up another read-only user that can collect the data, collect the metrics from vCenter server, you can use that. Otherwise, it's really optional. At this point, it is going to validate the connection to vCenter server, and this may take a few minutes. You will get a security alert asking you to verify the authenticity of your vCenter server. Just go ahead and click yes. At this point, vCenter Operations Manager is going to detect plugins for any existing vCenter Operations Manager 1.0 or Capacity IQ 1.5 plugins. If you have those plugins installed, vCenter Operations Manager allows you to import data from those existing instances. You can only import data from one Capacity IQ instance and one vCenter Operations Manager system. And that particular vCenter server has to be the first vCenter server that gets registered if you want to import the data. In this case, you can see that vCenter Operations Manager has not detected any plugins. So we are ready to move on to the next step. I'm going to click Next. vCenter Operations Manager will also check for whether the vCenter server is part of linked mode. If it is part of the linked mode, it will then point you to the other vCenter servers in the linked mode configuration. At this point, you can actually decide to either choose a subset of vCenter servers that you want to use for monitoring, or you can set up and register all the other vCenter server instances with vCenter Operations Manager. vCenter Operations Manager does not communicate over the linked mode. This is just a setup benefit that gives you the list of other vCenter servers that are part of the linked mode configuration. At this point, we are ready to finish our vCops Manager configuration. It is going to register itself with the vCenter server, and this may again take a few minutes. Okay, now that we have registered the vCenter operations, we are back to the administration UI. At this point, you can continue to register new vCenter server instances if you have them. Before we go ahead and use vCenter Operations Manager, the last step that we have to do is now apply licensing. User needs to have a valid license to access the vCenter Operations UI. We do this thing from vCenter server. We go back to vSphere client and go to the licensing tab. So at this point here, we're going to click on the asset, and you can see that there is a vCenter Operations Manager instance that is unlicensed. I'm going to just double click on this and assign a new license here. Enter the license key. So you should have your license key at this point. So you type your license key, go ahead and click OK. You can see that the license key has been assigned. I'm going to click OK. Now that your product is licensed, you are ready to go ahead and use. At this point, we're just going to go to the regular vCenter Operations Manager UI, and you should be directed to the vSphere UI. Click Login, and you should be into the vCenter Operations Manager UI at this point, ready to use your product. So hopefully you find this short video on installing and configuring vCenter Operations Manager useful. For further details, please go to the vCenter Operations Management Suite products page on VMware.com. Thank you very much.